How's it going, guys? DragonStar Production here, back with another What If video, and in this edition of Dragon Ball What Ifs, we'll be covering a What If that I haven't touched upon in a while, that being What If Future Krillin Survived Part 3. And I will not be giving a recap, so if you haven't seen Part 2 already, be sure to click the link above or click the link in the description below. That being said, let's hop into the video intro. Alright, so last time we left off with Future Krillin, Gohan, and Trunks all managing to defeat the androids of their timeline, while the timeline in the present was completely different, and this is because Dr. Dro and Android 19 are still coming, except for the fact that Dr. Dro is bringing back up in Android 14 and Android 15. And the reason why Dro decided to bring these failed android projects was because he's been watching the Z Fighters all train due to the spy bots, and he sensed that they've gotten a lot stronger, and Dro felt that he'd rather be safe than sorry. That being said, Dr. Dro would send 14 and 15 off to call out the Z Fighters by attacking a nearby city, while him and Android 19 plan to wait behind to absorb their energy whenever the opportunity strikes itself. Of course, destroying a nearby city would catch the attention of all the Z Fighters. Goku would immediately try to intervene, as well as Gohan and Piccolo, while Vegeta still hasn't left Capsule Corp at this time. Gohan and Piccolo would fight 14, while Goku holds his ground and base against 15. This carries on for a while until Goku decides to kick it up a notch and goes Super Saiyan. In Super Saiyan, the gap of power between Goku and 15 does grow pretty largely, and Goku is able to slap 15 right to the ground. However, this was a mistake from Goku not knowing, but Goku would still fall ill to the heart virus in this timeline. And as soon as Goku falls to one knee, Dr. Dro is caught standing behind him as he is waiting to absorb his energy, or at least whatever energy that Goku had left. And before he could do anything, present-day Krillin would arrive on the scene, as Krillin then blinds Dro with a solar flare, but before he could actually save Goku, Android 19 comes flying, and he nails Krillin inside a building with an uppercut. Krillin, though, picks himself up and powers up into his buff form as he dashes right back in for the attack. As for Goku, he did fall face first after Dro absorbed the rest of his energy, because Krillin wasn't able to save him, thanks to 19's save. The other human Z Fighters all come in as well, leaving the city a full-blown battleground at this time, as Yamcha manages to take Goku back to his house to heal, while the fight was still happening, as blasts were flying all around, punches were thrown, kicks were kicked, until we hear, "Man, if the doctor didn't program it himself, you knocking off my trucker hat, Goku, just gave me a reason to kill you." Of course, we're all aware that this is Android 13, as Android 13 and the other android would begin wiping the floor with the Z Fighters, and eventually Gohan, more on the sidelines, letting Piccolo do more of the fighting, can't bear to watch his friends get attacked and brutally injured any longer. Gohan blitzes as well, as he's blinded by an inside rage, and no, Gohan doesn't achieve Super Saiyan at this point, but the person who comes in to aid Gohan after his rage fades out is a Super Saiyan. This Super Saiyan being Vegeta, and Vegeta didn't waste any time in fighting the weakling of 14 and 15. Instead, Vegeta darts in straight at 13, which 213 Surprise is actually on par with him in his Super Saiyan form. Vegeta honestly could have the upper hand if he didn't get so cocky during the fight, because instead of possibly finishing the fight off when he had the chance, Vegeta got caught in 5-on-1 beatdown. Vegeta, although being a Super Saiyan, couldn't even hold up to the 5 androids. This leaves everyone with regrouping and simply are just lucky that they all made it out alive. With that being said, we would have a group of the Z Fighters that were all during the battle all meet up at the lookout for some training. Goku and Yamcha won't be joining on the training at this point, at least not yet, because Goku is still ill from the heart virus. However, just in time, a time machine would land on the ground. This happens to be Future Krillin, Future Gohan, and Future Trunks, who have all returned to the past and made their ways to the lookout after sensing everybody else's key there. They knew between the groups that were discussed, and the future group decides to help and stay, considering that they have power levels beyond most of the other humans, and Gohan is a Super Saiyan, even was stronger than Vegeta's at this moment in time. That being said, Kami brings up the idea of the hyperbolic time chamber to help them train, as this would then lead to Vegeta and Trunks going inside the chamber, as Gohan would follow up, and then Krillin, and eventually when Goku wakes up from his heart virus illness, he'll go inside more likely with Piccolo, and I'd say Vegeta and Trunks will most likely achieve grade 3, but realize the downfall of the form, so only choose to use grade 2, not unlocking grade 4 or Master Super saying as this would go the same way for both of the Gohans as well, only achieving grade 3 but only using grade 2 after realizing the flaws of grade 3. While the Krillins, on the other hand, are able to gain a large amount of power, and especially to be humans. Future Krillin learns the buff form from his present day self, while Krillin from the present day learns the times 25 solar flare, and with the two improving it to actually times 50 by the end of the training. As for anyone else stressing that Piccolo not being strong enough for Goku, well, this would be wrong, because while the chamber is all being used, Kami notices at the threat of the androids and brings the idea up to Piccolo about fusing like he did in the canon story. This would eventually happen. As we all know, Piccolo is at least on par with Super Saiyans after the fusion, and that being said, Piccolo would be a great partner for Goku, and I believe in fact Goku would be the only one out of all the Saiyans actually to achieve and get grade 4. Of course, when Vegeta would see Goku get grade 4, he would have to go into the chamber again himself, because he refuses to be surpassed by Kakarot, so he drags Trunks along inside with him. However, now I'll be skipping to the day on the lookout before the Z Fighters plan to actually charge into battle against the androids. They knew if they tried to fight separately, eventually the androids' numbers and infinite energy would give them the upper hand, so the Z Fighters all decided that attacking in a big group would be the best chance without someone interrupting or it being an unfair fight and actually losing the fight against the androids. This being said, the Z Fighters charge right up to the wasteland as they raise their ki, signaling to the androids that they are here. And by wasteland, I actually mean this is a glacier wasteland. They of course all know that the androids would come to the scene, and our canon Z Fighters are a bit stronger than they were in canon. As for the androids, they are a bit different, so I will scale them from strongest between them. Obviously, the weakest is 19, then 15, 14, and then Jiro, with his prize project in this timeline of being Android 13, being the strongest of all his androids. However, the androids weren't aware of the growth of the Z Fighters because it's only been a week, so they just think that they did some minor training. So when the fight started, it was basically over for 14, 15, and 19. With quick work, Vegeta kicks 19's head right off his body, while 15 gets obliterated by a Kamehameha from Goku, and then 14 tries to scram away but is caught by Krillin, all buffed up. Krillin then, with one swift uppercut, knocks 14's head straight off the robot's shoulders. Jiro is amazed and stunned as what has happened to all his creations. In fact, being too blinded by the depths of his creations, he couldn't focus on the fact that Gohan was rushing behind him with a Masenko that was being instructed by his master Piccolo, or at least one of his masters, Piccolo. This then leaves one android, Android 13. However, this wasn't just any Android 13. Soon the parts from the other androids started absorbing inside 13. Android 13 was now Super Android 13, and with that being said, the massacre then would begin. Super Android charges up a blast and throws it straight towards the weaker Z Fighters as he charges the stronger ones. The weaker ones tried to attempt to dodge the blast, but not aware that the blast would actually follow them. This, of course, being one of 13's tracker attacks. This blast seems to be closing in until it shoots off into the air. This was, of course, the Future gang who actually decides to jump in, being Future Krillin, Gohan, and Trunks. They all stepped in and used their power by pushing the blast off. Seeing this, of course, makes 13 want to retaliate, but he first has to pick a fight with Vegeta and Goku. The two being both in their Super Saiyans are holding ground against 13, but it turns out that 13 has been holding back this entire time, and when he kicks it into high gear, he sends Vegeta crashing into a glacier while grabbing Goku and then decks him right in the Gotens. Then 13 tosses Goku right next to Vegeta as he charges a Bomber DX, but Future gang once again comes in for the help, and they decide that they couldn't let this happen. But to their surprise, they are even struggling against Android 13, thinking that they would be able to walk over them like one of their androids in their timeline. However, this version of Android 13 was truly a monster. He was clearly going to have his way with the Z Fighters one way or another until he started beating them one by one. 13 was just knocking every one of them out until eventually blood, and beating them wasn't good enough. 13 wanted to kill the Z Fighter, so 13 rushed full speed at Future Krillin, and Future Krillin ate the attack, crashing from his buff form. This causes both Future Gohan and Trunks to react by dashing in at 13, and I will say their rages are managed to get them a couple blows in, but Trunks, still not being as an experienced in battle, leaves himself open and gets nailed right for an uppercut, causing him to fall into the water and crash out of sight of his Super Saiyan transformation. Then it was a one-on-one fight between Future Gohan and Super Android 13, and Gohan was enraged that his friend was knocked out, thinking that Krillin could have been dead, but he knew that his rage would slowly fade away, and he knew that if he wanted to finish this battle off now, he had to do it quick. So Gohan flashes around using the after image. Super Android, though, does not hesitate to attack every single clone, which gives Gohan the opening to hit a full power Kamehameha, or so he thought. Instead, when future Gohan shoots off the blaster, it is reflected by 13, who shoots off an energy barrier. 13 afterwards sees a fatigued Gohan, and he makes, with little ease, a small blast, and he obliterates Gohan with it. Nobody can manage to step in to save Gohan, but little did 13 realize that this Gohan was only the start of the issues, because 13 turned around to be clocked right across the jaw by present-day Gohan. Gohan was trained with his future self for a year in the time chamber, and he learned a lot about himself and learned a lot about who he was. And seeing 13 just destroy him, hurting him, and killing all of his friends, he just couldn't allow it. Gohan couldn't take it. In fact, Gohan actually taps into Super Saiyan 2 Rage, and not Rage, but he taps into Super Saiyan 2 because of his rage, and with this power, Gohan is able to wipe the floor with 13, especially enough to where he starts to get cocky, similar to the exact same way he did Cell, except in this timeline, Android 13 slips himself to absorb any of Gohan's ki whenever he starts to get cocky and punching him near him. This doesn't seem like it would do very much, but every time Gohan does rush in at 13, he does manage to get more and more energy until Gohan eventually fades back into his regular Super Saiyan, while also making 13 much more stronger in the process. 13 then would slap Gohan to the ground near the bodies of the others, but from the bodies we hear, "You guys, please, let me your energy. It's our last hope." Of course, this would be Goku asking for energy for the Spirit Bomb. Super Android 13 notices almost as soon as Goku starts charging the blast, but Goku plans for this. All of the other Z Fighters charge at Android 13 at the same time, knowing that this wouldn't be much time, but it would be just enough for Goku to get the Spirit Bomb ready. And it would be exactly enough time for that. Super Android 13 would eventually break free from the other Z Fighters by smashing them to the ground, as he would find himself looking directly into the light of the Spirit Bomb. Android 13 then grips his feet into the ice, but eventually Goku pushes more and more until he screams into the Super Saiyan. The Spirit Bomb then gets heavier and heavier until boom! Super Android 13 wasn't able to hold up himself any longer, as then the blast would start burning his body until nothing was there at all. The smoke settled and the androids were officially defeated in both timelines. However, not at the cost of a good friend, future Gohan. As a matter of fact, when Trunks wakes from being knocked out, he can't believe of what he's seeing. Trunks is actually pissed at this, especially because he was fighting alongside Gohan and he couldn't even help him. Trunks started punching the ground over and over, screaming that it couldn't been him. But future Krillin is about to step in when Goku says not to. He's got a lot to let out, and Goku meant both his emotions and his power. Trunks would let off a ki, very similar to what Gohan just had when he fought against Super Android 13. Actually, it was the same form. Trunks achieved the form just to fade back into the base. Trunks was super sad that his best friend had perished. And that being said, I will say that the Earth's Dragon Balls do manage to wish back future Gohan, and this also leaves Goku alive for the 7 years, while Krillin, Gohan, and Trunks were all alive in the future timeline. So if you want to find out what happens to the Buu Saga of both future and the present timeline for the next continuation of this video, be sure to like this video up, comment down below, and share this channel, and share these videos around. The more you share, the more views it'll get, the more likely I'll be able to make more videos. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. I really enjoyed writing it. That being said, DragonStar Productions is out.
I am Lord Frieza, Emperor of the Universe, and I advise you to like this video and subscribe to DragonStar Productions, or you'll force me to use 100% of my power. Oh, ho, ho, ho. But that won't be necessary because you've already hit the bell for all alerts and notifications. Ho, 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 ho.